Well, I have two sons, and they're very good, much more intelligent than their father.
Okay. So it's also a very rare kind of episode for me.
Yeah,
I do a lot of episodes with my guest,
yeah.
but for today, as you are another guest for another episode of this podcast, it's a rare show for me, okay? For you are 97 years old, Allan.
97 in July.
In July. There you go, isn't it?
Yeah, I was born in 1926.
Mm-hmm.
I had an elder brother who died about 8 years ago, I suppose. And I have two younger brothers. One is 88 and the other's about 91, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That'll be an obvious question for you from my side, okay?
What?
If I ask you, Allan, what do you think, like how you feel like being 97 years old?
What does it feel like?
Yeah.
Well, if I had a new back, I'd feel very much better. But actually, I spend my days walking. Once I'm walking, I can walk quite reasonably well. So I walk, I suppose, about 5 kilometres a day. 3 times I walk about getting on for 2 kilometres.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm not walking, I'm sitting or dozing. So I really ought to keep walking to keep healthy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's also like one of the common question for me, okay?
Yeah.
I think it's not only for myself, but I think it's for a lot of youngsters as well, Allan.
A lot of?
Yeah, a lot of youngsters, young people. I feel about like why I'm here. I mean, like in this world.
Why am I here in this world?
And what I'm going to be next.
World.
After, let's say, that's the end of my life. Now, I think you're the right person to ask. Like, you are nearly a centurion, isn't it? You're nearly a centurion, okay?
Well, the Christian answer to that, of course, is you go to be with the Father, God the Father, and Jesus is your elder son. No details, but just you are there to praise God, and you'll be happy, contented, and I don't know, there's not much, you just, that's about all we know.
Yeah. So I spoke with your son, Allan, Chris.
Chris?
Yeah, I spoke with Chris the other day.
Yeah.
And he was telling me a bit about yourself, how you were working as a minister.
Yes, I started as a civil engineer.
Okay.
And I worked for 12 years in civil engineering. During the first 7 years, I did my engineering diploma. And during the next 5 years, I did my Bachelor of Arts in preparation for seminary. And I did 3 years seminary training. During that time, I got friendly with a girl who became a missionary in Korea.
Okay.
So I had previously travelled in India, and I thought that'd be a lovely place to go. But Rita was in Korea, so that's where we went. And I was there for 12 years. 3 years doing language study, 2 years doing itinerary in the country, propping up country churches. And then I went to the Bible school, where I eventually became principal. I don't think that's because I was brilliant, although I think I was quite satisfactory as a lecturer. But the Korean church didn't have to pay for a principal who was from the missionary. So the missionaries paid for me. I was the principal of the school for a number of years. And then our mission wanted me to come home and promote the mission in Korea in Victoria, New South Wales and Tasmania. So for 7 years I was secretary of the mission in Melbourne.
Okay.
And centred in those three areas.
Okay.
Then I went into parish work, and I was 7 years in East Ringwood, which is a suburb of Melbourne, and then I was 7 or 8 years in Wangaratta, a large city on the highway between Melbourne and Sydney.
Okay.
After I retired in 1992, I helped out in various churches. I was 6 months in Cairns, which was a lovely time because in my days off I was able to go to the Atherton Tableland and see that and see the the Great Barrier Reef.
Okay.
And then I was in a whole lot of places. And then in 2001, Rita and I came to live in Newcastle.
Okay.
Because Christopher was in the Gold Coast at the time, but he was at least closer, and my younger son was living in Newcastle. So we came here in 2001.
Okay.
In 2005, my younger son bought another house and then suggested we build a granny flat in the back.
Okay.
And Rita and I lived there, which we did. So that was in 2001. In 2012, Rita died, and since then, my two boys have really looked after me very well. Now Christopher, who was living for a while in Wallsend, he came and dossed down in my place. He sleeps in my place and generally looks after me. And my younger son is always there as a backstop.
Alrighty.
So I'm very well set up now, and that's life.
Okay.
I don't have any responsibilities now, but I still preach at Shortland, which was my own home church. I preach there once a month because they're a small congregation and finding it hard to get a preacher. So that's my life now.
Alrighty.
The only work I do is that one service a month.
Okay.
But at 97, I sometimes think maybe I shouldn't even be doing that. Maybe I should just sit back and recognise that I'm too old. But however, they're still quite happy to listen to what I have got to say. So, so I say it.
Yeah. So it's all about the part of the service, isn't it? It's the part of the service.
Oh, I do the whole service. I do the prayers.
Yeah.
A member of the congregation do the readings. Of course, the congregation join in the singing and in the prayers, and I just do the sermon, the reflection.
Alrighty. So while you are saying this to me, Allan, I would like to take you back to your memories. Okay. Do you still remember where people used to come and ask you for sandwich?
For sandwiches?
Sandwiches, yeah.
Yes. We lived in Roseberry, which is in the Mallee, Victoria, northwest. and it's on the Henty Highway between Portland and Mildura.
Mm-hmm.
And every year, men in those days used to walk up to Mildura to do fruit picking.
Mm-hmm.
And they would carry their swag and they would sleep out, and we called them swaggy men.
Swaggy men. Okay.
Yeah. And they walked past our place. My father was used to lump wheat, you know. He was he bought wheat on behalf of one of the big wheat firms, and then they stacked it in great big, and he did that. He was only 8 stone, so it's quite slight, and the people said he'll last 6 weeks. Well, he lasted over 6 years.
Okay.
And he did the lumping, and then that transferred from trucks to the train, and so down to the city.
Okay.
My mother looked after a greengrocer's shop and a lolly shop and a drink shop, which was, there was a grocer's shop in our country town, a hotel, and our greengrocer's shop. That was all there was.
Okay.
So my mother looked after that, and we used to help a lot. At the we sold cigarettes, we sold drinks, fruit, chocolates, etc.
Yeah.
So we that's how life extended. And then during the war, Dad joined up, and Dad was brilliant at arithmetic. He could add up a column of as quickly as you could point to them. And in the army, he became a pay sergeant. He was a lieutenant. I don't know. I've forgotten the name.
That's all right.
But he was there, and for years he looked after the salaries of all the people. So he was stationed in Melbourne, in the city, and he was able to live at home. So although he was in the army, he was just like ordinary employment. And that fitted very well with I have 3, one older brother and 2 younger brothers, and we all managed very well in that situation.
All right, Allan. So today is all about Father's Day special episode.
Yeah.
Now, would you like to share with my listeners some of your cherished moment you had with your father?
Well, in those days, Father's Day hadn't really... It was there. Mother's Day was much earlier, and that was celebrated. Father's Day was just a name.
A name.
However, Dad was always very helpful, close to his family, close to his wife and the children. It was really a very happy family. And so, yeah, I guess that's how life was.
Okay. So compared to now, like, did you feel any difference? Like, what about the Father's Day these days?
Well, these days I have 2 sons who look after me rather than the other way around.
And I've already heard, like, you came to this podcast after a family picnic, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's they look after me, and I don't know whether I'm of much help to them, but they're certainly generous in all that they do, and they make sure that I survive.
Okay.
And more than survive, that I enjoy life. Yes.
Okay. Alrighty, Alan. Now you are nearly 97, isn't it?
97
You're
years.
nearly 97.
I,
So
I technically retired at 92,
92.
and since then I was going off and on at various churches. But I'm still connected with the Korean church. It sounds great, but I was approached by Koreans living in Melbourne that would I start a church for them. I did it reluctantly because I thought at the time they would do better to join an Australian church and assimilate that much more quickly. What I didn't realise that many of the women didn't have a word of English, and it would have been almost impossible for them. So anyway, I started, and that was the first Korean church in Melbourne, in Australia, the Korean Church of Melbourne. That was started in 74, wasn't it? I think it was 74. They've just had their 50th. No, it must have been 73, because they've had the 50th anniversary. And they still honour me as the founder.
Yeah.
So, but that's down in Melbourne now, and I came to live in Newcastle.
Yeah.
So and of course, I don't have a licence now. I used to go to Melbourne quite frequently, but now I hardly ever go. And Christopher took me down a number of times, so did Graham. But then eventually that got too difficult, and
Yeah. But still, what I can say, you have an impact in our workplace, a positive impact. Okay.
I like to think that I did.
Your son Chris and myself, we work together. I won't reveal the name of the place where we work, but we have that positive impact from you. Okay.
Well,
now,
I had my interest in Nepal is I had when I was in Bible class, before I was married, when I was in Bible class, Colin Clugston was our leader, and he actually was a doctor. And he went to Nepal, to this hospital, the leprosy hospital, and he worked there. I haven't been in touch with him over the last couple of years, so I don't know if he's still there, or even if he's still alive. But that was my contact with Nepal, and so I've always had a warm feeling for the Nepalese.
Thank you so much. So, Alan, what do you think? What values your father has imparted on you? So you are sharing with us now.
Oh, well, he was honest as the day is warm. He was hard-working, very hard-working. He loved his wife, and he cared for his children. He loved his children, he cared for them. So he was an ideal father, and I have nothing but warm memories of him. He was very generous with his wife. He died in 1977. Now, I'm not sure whether, I always get mixed up, whether he was 77, and that if he died at 77, it would have been in 1972. I'm not sure now whether he died. 77 is a significant number.
Okay.
But I have nothing but good memories of him. He loved his wife, as I said, and his children, and was a good example always. Yeah.
Talking about yourself, okay? So if I talk about myself, I'm also a father, okay? I'm sort of 35 to 40 in that age range. And I have a daughter, she's 3.5, okay? What about yourself, Alan? You got two sons?
2 sons, and they're just like fathers to me. They're looking after me just like any good father would.
Yep. So I would just like to know, I think like it's best to share with the listeners, as a father yourself, okay? So how did you balance your responsibilities and personal interest?
And I had a very responsible and a very efficient wife who basically looked after the children. They never interfered with my work. They would come to church and sit quietly with other children in the church. And it was a very comfortable way of living. And I don't know whether the 2 boys were as enthralled as that, but they never rebelled, and they never made any fuss. So it was easy living with them and with my wife.
Okay.
I could give some input there if you want to.
Sure.
There are a couple of memories I have. We did feel very much a part of the church as the church family. Dad would always include us in what was going on. I remember when Mum was reading a story to us and Dad was working on something in his office, and it was the Paddington Bear stories. And eventually Dad just put down his pen and came over to join us to hear the story as well.
Okay.
He also, his engineering background, when he liked making things, he made things for us. I used to love his study because I love books, and I inherited that from Dad. So, yeah, he was a good father for us.
Righty, Alan. Now, would you like to recall any funny moments or some heartwarming memories from your childhood?
Oh, goodness. Well, I had a very happy childhood.
Some funny memories.
We were in a very small country town, and when I was 3.5, the local primary school teacher approached Mother and said, would she send me to school to bring the number up to 30 when they could retain their second teacher who taught the younger classes. So I began school at 3.5. I can't remember that, but I do remember the teachers and the students. There were always 4 people in my grade: Len Chivel, Phyllis Seipelt, myself, and, oh goodness, there was one other. It was a boy.
That's right.
And we got on pretty well the whole time. Colin Innes was the other one. And we advanced right through primary school. At grade 7, I won a scholarship to go to Scotch College, one of our premier colleges in Melbourne. And so I went down and was a boarder in 1940. And then in 1941, the family moved down to Melbourne. So I went back home, but I remained at school. And I did my leaving certificate and matriculation in 1941. So my memories of all of that are very good and very positive.
Yeah. I was going through your portfolio. Your son Chris has sent that to me.
Yeah.
There, it has been mentioned like you traveled 48 kilometers to go to the school.
That's right. We were at Roseberry on the Henty Highway, and a bus went every day from Hopetoun, which is 38 miles north of Warracknabeal, to the Warracknabeal High School. The big advantage of that was the bus had to leave straight after school,
Mm-hmm.
so we could never get a detention.
Okay.
If we were naughty, or they just had to bypass the whole thing because they couldn't keep us in late. I don't know that I benefited from that all that much, but probably once or twice. There were about 18 or 20 people, I think, in that bus.
Mm-hmm.
They started at Horsham, some got on at Guyura, Roseberry, Brim, Beulah, Brim, Gallicwell, Bachelor,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was it was a happy experience.
Mm-hmm. All about your childhood, isn't it?
Yeah,
All about your childhood.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, Alan, like, do you recall, like, at which age did you become a father?
That was in 1940. No, wait a minute. What is it?
It's not a specific question, alrighty, so don't stress. Yeah. Now, anyways, like what I was about to ask you, how your, let's say, your perception on becoming a father is changing. Like, let's say, when you were quite young yourself and you became a father, you're 97 now,
Yes.
all right?
Yeah.
Okay, I confirmed that one with Chris. Now, when you became a father, like when you were yourself young, and now you're 97, okay? So what is the perception and what is the perspective of yourself?
What's my experience of all of this?
Exactly.
Well, of course, I was very proud. Both Christopher and Graham were born in Korea. So I can remember when Christopher was born, I was living, doing language study with a group of students, Korean students, and when Christopher was born, I threw a party and invited all the Koreans.
Alrighty.
And we had a special drink so that I could toast the baby when they'd finished. But I didn't realise the Korean custom. As soon as they finished their dinner, they got up and went. So by the time we were ready to toast, there was nobody there.
Nobody there.
But it was. They were very interested in the children, and I don't know how the children felt about it all, but it was a very positive experience for me and for Rita, my
Okay.
wife and mother. So
Yeah.
that's our early days.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about traditions. You are mentioning about when you were at Korea, you were around with your Korean friends, isn't it? Now, let's talk about traditions, okay? So, what sort of traditions that you feel you have passed it to your children, Alan?
Oh, glory be. What sort of traditions? I don't know whether I passed them on or not, but I know the Koreans always had great respect for their families and their parents, more particularly their father. The mother was in the background, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I got on well with the Korean customs, and nothing clashed in our upbringing, and they were quite happy with the way we brought up the children too.
All right.
He was only 5, I think, when we came home. So then he went to primary school in Melbourne. So that was the end of our Korean. Well, I was still closely associated with Koreans, but it was basically the children weren't like I was. It was basically an Australian situation, yeah.
Alrighty. So, Alan, like, can you share some of the proudest moment you have experienced as a father?
Well, I suppose both my children, went to university, did
Wow.
postgraduate studies, and they both have a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 2 photographs of both of them in their PhD robes, and that made me very proud, of course. But I think basically they're just the standard of living that they have, their integrity, their love of people, their mutual understanding, their sympathy with people, and Christopher in particular, with his empathy with all the folk at Tanoni Gardens, where he is, he's just a friend and a guide to so many people. Yeah, that's a very, very happy memory for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like lovely, you know. Like
Yeah.
both of your sons with like PSD gowns, and
Yeah.
after that graduation ceremony, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were very proud to go to the graduation ceremonies and see our sons have their mortarboards fixed up, you know, so that they were
Yeah.
PhDs.
Yeah, that's a great one. Mm.
And in those days, I don't know what about it is now, but in those days, PhD was a very, very prestigious
Still in these days.
degree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
We were very proud of them, and we still are.
Still.
They're both... I know how Christopher is loved by the residents of Tanoni Gardens, and that's because he is gentle and understanding with all of them. So that makes me glad. And Graham is very concerned for climate change and for family matters, and he works at the university and is quite an expert in family affairs.
Okay.
And so, once again, I think they're making a good contribution to life here, both of them, and that makes me proud.
Alrighty. So, what advice you want to give it to the new fathers?
New fathers?
Mm.
Oh, goodness. I don't know.
Because you got 2 sons
2 sons, yes.
who made you proud, and they are still making you proud, isn't it? After they have completed their PhD. So you are the right person to ask. Okay. What advice do you want to give it to the new fathers based upon your insight and based upon your experience?
Love your children. Give them time. Oh, excuse me. That's all right. I just... yes. What were we talking about?
I was asking you, after you mentioned me all about how both of the sons made you proud, because they both have PhD degrees, isn't it? Now, I believe you are the right person to ask. I believe you are the right person to ask, what advice do you want to give it to the new fathers? Based upon your
Love your
experience.
children.
Love your children.
Give them time. Don't be always too busy doing other things. Love your wife so that there is harmony in the home. And if there's harmony in the home, the children will grow up to be content and happy with harmony. So Rita was very helpful, very submissive, very... Yeah. I couldn't have asked for a better wife and mother. I think Christopher might agree that she was a very good mother.
Yeah. So, Allan, I was keen on asking you, okay? I was keen on asking you, as you have seen a lot of changes, okay? You are nearly a centurion, isn't it? You're 97. So, what changes you have seen since from your childhood until for now in all about relationship? Like, what had changed for you and what is still constant for you in terms of your relationship with your family, your loved ones, your friends?
Well, my relationship with family, and that's remained constant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad that the church is not nearly as strong as it used to be. It's many people now think the church is old-fashioned and out of touch. So the church now is, I don't want to say it's dying, but if it dies, I wouldn't be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
The churches I attend are not a fraction of what they used to be when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
So...
You're talking about the bonding, are you? You're talking about the bonding?
No, the bonding's fine. It's the numbers.
The numbers, okay.
The very, very few people. Last Sunday was a very badly attended one, but there were only 10 in church.
Mm-hmm.
Normally I'd have about 25.
Yeah.
Well, when I was a boy, the average church service would have been 300 to 400.
Mm-hmm.
So that's changed considerably.
Yeah. So what do you think, Allan? Like, what could be the reason behind it? Why there are like less numbers?
Oh, I think that we're getting more and more materialistic in our approach. We're not given to what do you call it? I can't think of it. You're practical and basic. We're not given to.
That's all right. Take your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? You're not given to. No, we're just very practical.
Yeah.
Down to earth. Yeah, we're not likely to go off the edge for ideas now. You're much more definite and...
do you think that technology has also impacted the numbers?
Oh, yes.
What I've seen like recently, that was actually awesome in terms of like COVID situation, okay?
Yeah.
People can actually attend funerals online,
Yeah.
isn't it? They will be just putting on like 4 or 5 or 6 cameras around and people can watch or virtually attend the funeral, isn't it? That was a good impact during COVID situation. But if that is continuous, if that is a trend, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, church was a basic part of life when we were growing up. And it's no longer that. Sport has taken over. I can remember when it was forbidden to play sport on Sunday. Now it's almost the opposite, except that you don't need to forbid people to go to church.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you, what does your grandchildren call you?
GP.
GP.
Yeah. For grandpa.
Okay.
Yeah.
GP.
I've only 2 grandchildren, really. And they're both now. One will be turning 20 next month and the other's 23. So, and they've left home already. So I mentioned that they built a granny flat behind my son, yeah. Well, he had the 2 daughters.
You did.
But they're now, one's travelling Australia, speaking on behalf of Rising Tide, and they're very concern for climate change. And the other one lives in the city and works. What does she work in?
She's an engineer working in Warners Bay in renewable energy.
Yeah.
She's an engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what makes your granddaughters call you GP? They call you GP, right?
Oh, well, I don't know. It was just a mutual decision.
Okay.
Grandpa, GP.
Okay.
And they thought that was good, and I was quite happy with it. And others have also commented that that's great.
Would you like to describe the bonding you have with your grandchildren?
Well, just that we live very close together. We did. And so they were a part of the general setup. So we were always close. I've been living behind my son in the house since 2001. And that's a long time to be with children. And I got to know them well. And so did Rita, my wife. And they were always acceptable in our house. And we were always acceptable in theirs. And when they eventually left home, it was just quite recently. It was this year, wasn't it? Yeah. They left home and they now live in the city. So, yeah, life has always been a close-knit family. And Christopher's always been a part of that, particularly since when?
Since about 2008, 2005, about
Anyway.
Newcastle.
Okay.
So it's a very happy family situation, at least from my point of view.
Okay. So I was about to ask you, what were some of the life lessons that you would like to share that to us, to my listeners, to your children? 0 to 97 years old, isn't it? You have seen a lot, Allan.
Lessons to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a lot. I guess what do I wish? The fact that whole family relationships have always been warm and never any real tension. So when there were never any times when there were real tensions and about the family relationships. They got on very well with their mother. They tolerate me very well. So I'm in a very, very fortunate and happy family situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got a lot of questions to ask you, and it's getting interesting, okay?
Yeah.
Let's focus on Father's Day. For today, it's Father's Day, isn't it? Now, if you recall of any gift that you have received from your children and grandchildren's, or any gestures, okay, your grandchildren has actually shown to you?
I don't know. Gifts were much more important years ago than they are today. I can remember we always had to think out and give Dad a gift. I don't know that they were ever significant. I can't remember ever giving. I know I used to give Dad a gift every Father's Day, but I don't remember any of them.
Yeah.
In the latter times, they may well have been chocolates or something other like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What about yourself, Allan? What about yourself? Now, have you got any memory where your children and your grandchildren, they have given you a gift and that really touched your heart?
Oh dear.
They gave you a lot of gift, I know that, but
I always
gift?
received gifts, but I guess often they were chocolates or something to eat, or I doubt if there was anything. But I just that's years ago, and
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just put in an input. My younger niece, Alexa, is an artist, and it was a child. She would be giving Dad pictures and things that she'd done.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we've done for Dad, assisting him to take the trips to Korea when I would go with these sort of things, I think, are better than the actual material gifts.
I used to draw the portraits of people.
Wow.
I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, and Alexa quite early picked up this, and she's developed into be a real artist. She has 2 big pictures after the style of Picasso.
Wow.
And they're really very clever. And she has pictures of vases of flowers, of birds and all the rest of it. And she also has done some quite good murals, which she is, some of them are in Newcastle City, and one's on our own garage door, big flowers, and they look very good. So she has brought this incipient talent to fruition, because she really is a good artist.
Okay.
I've got drawings of them. Yes, that'd be.
I can't remember whether you did. I think you did.
When we moved into the little flat just behind the house, I didn't have a studio, and Rita wasn't very pleased with the smell of turpentine through the house, so I gave away my paints and started drawing. And then, since then, I've drawn friends and family and everybody. I've done about 150, 100 and,
I think
200.
you've done well over 1,000.
Have I?
Yes.
Well, anyway, there's an awful lot.
Yeah.
And I've just got folders and folders and folders of them. Yeah. Excuse me. Oh, it's just permanent.
It's an aging process, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I've had a very interesting life, a very fulfilling life. I've never felt that I was wasting my time, even now when I walk a lot, because once I get out on the street and start walking, I gain stability and I can walk slowly, according to Christopher, who comes with me on a weekend. But for me, with my short legs, I'm going quite quickly. And so I do about 5 kilometres every day.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's life now, and it's positive. Yeah.
Okay. All about your grandchildren. Okay. So you were mentioning that to me. They have pursued their own career, isn't it? Your grandchildren, they have set up their own path at the moment now. How do you get connected to them?
How do I maintain contact?
Maintain that contact and connection with your grandchildren, Allan.
Very little, really. They'll pop down and see me every time they come home, and but we don't have great conversations, and they just tell me what they've been doing, and I find that interesting.
How do you feel about
I'm
that?
very proud of them. I don't know how they feel about me, but they're very tolerant of me anyway.
So
I'll make a quick input. Dad has mentioned already that both girls are quite passionate on social issues and climate and energy things in particular. Recently there was a big protest where they actually stopped the coal train, and my nieces were involved in that. Dad and I came to the dawn service, and Dad took his walker right across the swamp, and they both really appreciated that support that Dad gave. And then later on, when they had a little multi-religious service to commemorate people that were lost from climate issues, Dad gave a prayer at that one, and along with several of the other. No, he gave a little message, and the fact that he is supporting them in that means a lot to both the girls. So they see Dad whenever they come. Graham will often invite Dad up for dinner to meet the family, so they do. But it's up to
Couldn't hear, so
Okay.
I won't disagree with anything you
Graham
said.
and Dad.
Alrighty, Alan. It's getting interesting. Okay. Now, I would love to take you back to your memories again. Okay.
Yeah.
All about your youth, all about your young age, all about your childhood.
My childhood.
Yeah. So, what event? Because you have seen a lot, isn't it? What event had the greatest impact on you since from your childhood?
Well, I suppose the fact that I won a scholarship to Scotch College, which is one of the premier colleges of Victoria, and that from from a little Mallee town. So that's when I went down and I graduated from there, matriculation, and that set me up as a quite acceptable academic background. It took me 5 years to do my Bachelor of Arts, and then although I continued working as an engineer, I graduated, I matriculated, and I did 3 years theology, and that's when that's as I graduated.
I was also going through your profile, and it was mentioning like you also attended night college, didn't you?
At night college, well, you see, I was working as a civil engineer for 12 years. From 1942, I was working at the Melbourne Harbor Trust as a draftsman, during which time I did my diploma of civil engineering. Then after 7 years, I went to the Melbourne and Metropolitan Board of Works, still as a draftsman. And there I went, I graduated, while I was there, I did my Bachelor of Divinity.
Okay.
So then when that was over, that's when I got married and went to Korea.
Alrighty.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you. So, Alan, like, do you remember any trends, okay, from your childhood or when you were exactly on the young age? Like, trend could be your fashion, could be your style, could be your attire.
No.
Do you recall any trends from your childhood?
Trends?
Yeah. Any fashion that you used to follow?
Things were just normal. No, I don't remember anything significant or anything that I did that changed life, you know. I just lived and did the things that everybody else did.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you reflect back on your own life, okay, as somebody who has been living for a long life, you're 97, so what is the key message you want to give it to my listeners?
Always be positive. Always be friendly. Don't consider yourself better than anyone else. Live simply and just recognise that you're one of millions, and you can make your contribution, and your contribution can be acceptable and appreciated, but you don't change the world. And so I'm very happy with my situation and with the way everything has panned out.
Okay. And now, special to the younger people, what message you want to give it to them, Allan? Like, what is important or what is not important for you?
Well, what is important, I think, is that whatever you're doing, do it to the best of your ability. It mightn't be important work. It mightn't be work that will ever make you famous, but do it well, and that will be appreciated. So, I don't know, that's about what I would say to young people.
Okay.
Live life to the full. Don't envy other people, their abilities or their achievements. Do what you can, do the best you can, and be satisfied. Don't be hurt that you can't do other things. Do what you can, and yes. So I don't know. I felt all along. The families don't ever suggest that I've failed in anything, that I'm not doing the best I can, that I've missed big opportunities. They're just content. And so that's very helpful. And I just would suggest that if you want to support somebody, always be positive with them. Be very careful with your criticism so that you don't suggest that they're failures or that they're not trying. Just accept what they can do and make the best of it. That's what my family had done to me, and I couldn't expect more.
Okay. So you were mentioning that to me, like you're walking around 5 kilometers a day. What would be your diet when you're 97? Your diet?
What's my diet? Christopher makes my evening meal. I make the breakfast because that's just dishing up cereal. And Christopher often makes stuff that we put in the refrigerator and I warm up again for lunch. So I have meat and vegetables, and yogurt is my standard dessert. I like bananas, and I have water.
A lot of water.
I have hot water. I don't bother to put tea bags in it. It's just a waste of time. And so I just have the hot water. And the doctor seems to think that that's very healthy.
Okay.
So that's all right.
Okay.
So I'm very, very, very content with the way life has panned out. And the fact that I've lived to be 97 suggests that either I'm doing something right or I'm very, very blessed. And whether I'll reach 100 or not, I don't know. But I don't seem to be slowing down, particularly, although my balance is certainly not getting any better. I think Christopher would have to admit that it's not as good as it was 6 months ago or 12 months ago. How long this is going to deteriorate, and I can still move around the house, I don't know. I normally have a stick, and for going out for a walk, I often use a walker.
A walking frame, okay.
If I'm walking not on grass and just in around the Lambton Park is very, very convenient. and it's got a very good pathway right round.
Mm-hmm.
I can use the pusher without any trouble. If I go further afield, I've got to stop and think.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go by stick, I can generally, once I get started and into the rhythm, I can walk quite
Mm-hmm.
regularly. I don't walk quickly because I'm too small. Christopher walks with me round the park on a Saturday and on a Sunday when he's off, and he's got to walk quite slowly so that I can keep up with him.
He has to follow
But,
your pace. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's...
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I could ask for a better situation, seeing my limitations.
But when I see you, Alan, you are doing well.
Yeah, and I'm quite happy with what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
I can still imagine. I don't seem to be getting any weaker intellectually, or I sometimes my memory is certainly not improving. And I can forget things very, very quickly.
So we do understand that one because it's an aging process,
Yeah,
isn't it? So we do understand what you are saying, okay?
yeah.
I'm excited. I'm
What?
thrilled to talk with you.
Oh,
For the reason, you are one of my rarest guests, okay? Like
thank you.
a couple of young people would come here in this episode. If I was doing another episode, like there would be another young people coming for this show, okay? But it's a Father's Day, and I should be thankful to Chris, your son, because we made that plan. Let's do a podcast
Yeah.
all about Father's Day. And I was thinking about like, all right, we need a father here. Who could be the father? That's you.
Well, I had a good father who left me a good example, and I've been the best father I can manage, but how much I've succeeded, you'd better ask Christopher, but not in front of me, because he'd say the nicest things in front of me. He might be a little more honest with you when I'm not listening, and when I'm not likely to hear his answers.
I know, Chris. Like he would be saying the same thing, even you're not around. Okay.
Oh well.
All right, Alan. It was my pleasure to talk with you.
And it was a pleasure
all
to...
about your memories. So for me, like you are a book, all right, full of life, full of interesting stories, full of experience.
Yeah, thank
Isn't
you.
it? So
It's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you very much.
thank you so much.
Yeah. And I hope the photographs are okay and so forth. Righto?
Sure. I'll edit and I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, Alan.